Go ahead.
Welcome, everyone, to our IMAP webinar for March. I just want to let you know that this webinar was pre-recorded since we have panelists from around the world. But if you have any questions for our panelists, please put them in the chat and we will make sure they get forwarded to the party for which they're intended. And since I've told you that, let's go ahead and watch our webinar. Thank you. To our monthly IMAP webinar. Today we'll be talking about the theme of teen pregnancy and sex-related topics. The media. The Universal Peace Federation is a global organization dedicated to promoting peace and understanding across diverse communities. A key aspect of UPF's mission is the recognition of the family as the fundamental unit of society, which we often refer to as the school of love. UPF emphasizes the importance of strong, loving families as the foundation for a healthy and stable society. Additionally, UPF's International Media Association for Peace, or IMAP, underscores the vital role of media in fostering a socially responsible and ethical environment, which is essential for achieving lasting peace and harmony. The MC for today's program will be Pierre Beauregard. Pierre and his wife live near Montreal in Canada. Pierre earned a degree in business administration and also holds a master's degree in religious education. Since 2016, he has been volunteering as a facilitator to help men wanting to break free from a porn addiction. In 2022, he also co-founded an informal group called Canadians for Action, which advocates for age verification legislation in Canada. Pierre enjoys a retirement after 20 years of work as a certified financial planner. He also serves as our IMAP coordinator for Canada. Please join me in welcoming Pierre Beauregard.
Thank you, Peggy. I truly appreciate your introduction and your lifelong commitment to help young people form beautiful, loving couples and families, which you've done all throughout your life. The founders of UPF, the late Dr. Sun Myung Moon and his wife, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, also known as Holy Mother Han and Mother of Peace, have invested and continue to invest their whole heart and soul to save our world from the breakdown of family ever since their holy marriage in 1960. I think they would never have imagined that in 2025, we would have gone so far as to be telling our children in many countries that they have to decide if they are a girl or a boy, depending on how they feel, and that they would be encouraged in their teens to go through various medical procedures to change their bodies accordingly. Truly, truly shocking. According to 2024 Gallup poll, believe it or not, LGBTQ plus identification rates among young people, that is in the United States, this Gallup poll, have increased from an average of 18.8% of Gen Z as adults in 2020 through 2022 to an average of 22.7% over the past 2 years. For those born before 1946, the rate was only 1.8%. Navigating adolescence is always challenging, but today's teens face an additional risk: the constant presence of social media. In Canada, 44% of children aged 7 to 11 and 83% of those aged 13 to 17 use social media platforms. The average American teen spends 4.8 hours per day on the 7 most popular social media apps. It is clear that social media can have a significant impact on self-esteem and body image. How can we effectively address teen pregnancy and sex-related topics in this digital landscape where young people are constantly bombarded with idealized images and misleading information? That is the topic of today's presentation. So today we'll hear from 3 wonderful experts to help us understand the situation and find solutions. Robert Kittle, Dr. Robert Kittle, co-chair and director of education, Universal Peace Federation Asia, will be our first speaker. Amelia Linderman, director of School of Love, will follow, and our respondent, Cheryl Wetstein, senior advisor, Times Global Media Group and former reporter at the Washington Times, will complete the presentation, which will be followed by a period of question and answers. So let me introduce Robert Kittle. Dr. Robert Kittle is currently senior advisor for Mother Moon's Foundation in the Asia Pacific region. He's also co-chair for the Universal Peace Federation and its director of education. Dr. Kittle received his doctorate degree from University of Bridgeport in Connecticut, USA in 2004, specializing in family values-based character education for adolescents. He is currently teaching a course at HJ International, a graduate school in New York. He has published 14 books, articles, curricula, and in-depth research papers, along with being a photojournalist with stories running in 7 international publications. He has lived and worked in Asia since 1975. Currently, he is living with his wife in Manila. And they have 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. Dr. Kittle.
You got it.
Dr. Kittle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pierre, and thank you for this IMAP really program that you do like clockwork every month. It's simply amazing. Let me jump into the presentation because I'm on a time clock here, which is okay by me. But let me jump there. Okay. Addressing teen pregnancy and sexual related topics for the age of social media. There's an and, so I'll deal with the first part, addressing teen pregnancy, and Amelia will deal with the second part. So I'm older and she's younger. I think that's an appropriate demarcation of responsibilities. Let's begin. I live in the Philippines, and the business world 2 years ago said this: adolescent pregnancy is not only a health and education problem, but an economic development issue that poses serious threats, particularly to the labor force, according to the World Health Organization and the United Nations. What that means is a boy and a girl will have sex, she will get pregnant, and the first thing they will do is drop out of school. No more education, no more job training, and yet we have to compete, Filipinos, with the Taiwanese, the Chinese, the South Koreans, and the Japanese. Can't do it without that foundation. It goes on to say that Philippines is estimated to lose $33 billion, $600 million a year because of this, and it's a national priority for the government. The first thing I learned was free sex is not free, and somebody put a price tag on it. Finally, it's very expensive. It's not new. Arnold Toynbee, of the 21 notable civilizations, 19 perished from moral decay. Currently, the Washington Times this month, in 1970, there were 71% of households married. Today, 2 years ago, 47%. It concludes this: without marriage, we become a nation of increasingly isolated, self-absorbed individuals, which is why the decline of marriage is so ominous. What is the solution? Well, we have many fields of study, including media, which will be talked about later. But the center of these is religion. The reason is because at the center of religion are our values. And those values permeate every field of study: politics, economics, arts, education, and the media. So what I want to do is to take a whole of culture approach. We need to engage all of these fields of study so that we can be able to work more effectively in dealing with this problem. Kofi Annan said universal values are also more acutely needed in this age of globalization than ever before. Newt Gingrich, you have to win the core argument about values, not just the surface arguments about performance. And Dennis Prager, Without shared values, how does a society survive? They don't. Sociologist Glenn Stanton says there's a mountain of scientific evidence, published literature over decades. They know marriage is important. And so the sociologists are calling for the religious leaders to work out a fuller theology of marriage. Okay? How do you do that? Is there a model? Here in the Philippines, we have started a school. It's been 23 years, and there's now 550 students, K to 12. So it's not big, but neither are diamonds. But if you get a diamond, they're very valuable. And so this is a model of moral education, because in this school, there is not one teen pregnancy and not one sexual disease transmitted. How did you do it? Well, we work together. We have this program with the government of Antipolo, where the school is located. We do service projects together. We do education programs together. This is the wife of the mayor launching this program last December. Twice a month, we go out and to help serve the community, teach people to be public-minded. So what are the values rooted in religion that brought about this result? There are 4 basic values that I'd like to talk about. Love, children, parental, sibling, and conjugal love. Let's talk about the first 2, because they are vertical in nature. There's a vertical element to them, parents and children. And this means you live for the sake of others, for the greater good. Parents live for the sake of their children. They want their children to be better than them. Vice versa, children live for the sake of the parents. Every religion acknowledges this. The Bible says, whoever seeks to gain his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life will preserve it. Again, in the Bible, let no one seek his own good, the good of his neighbor. Live for the neighbor. In the Quran, do not expect in giving any increase. Give without expectation. In Buddhism, misers do not go to heaven. Noblemen find joy and generosity. Give without expectation. Joy and generosity. There's something similar to this. The love of yourself. And then you can develop the path to peace. In Confucianism, nourish the mind. How do you do that? Make your desires few. Don't be so selfish. That's a healthy mind. And in Hinduism, sacrifice is performed by those who desire no reward. So there's this common element that we see. Living for others is embodied in all religions. It's even beyond them. Sigmund Freud, delayed gratification, impulse control. Don't be so selfish so quickly. Wait. And in this book, The Good Society, Robert Bellah, the most profound decisions about justice are not made by individuals as such, but by individuals thinking on behalf of institutions, not on themselves. Mahatma Gandhi, the founder of modern India, I would like to see India free and strong. The individual being pure, what? Sacrifices himself for the family. Family for the village for the district for the province for the nation for all, Khuda-i Raj, the kingdom of God. Martin Luther King, life's most persistent and urgent question, what are you doing for others? And Mother Teresa, I love this. I met her, by the way, when I was in India. Give, but give until it hurts. Sacrificing for others is good. And we learn to sacrifice for others by living for the sake of our parents first. This is why the family is so important. We learn filial piety, the right priority of mind and body, public and private, and we develop good character. So our parents are our North Star. And every religion, again, honor your father and mother, Old and New Testament, Jewish and Christian. Confucianism, filial piety is the root of goodness. Islam, worship Allah alone and do good unto your parents. Wow. And in Buddhism, 5 ways a child should minister to his parents. Having supported me, I will support them. I will do their duties. I will maintain the family traditions. I shall make myself worthy of this inheritance and offer alms with the departed. Treat your mother as God and treat your father as God, says Hinduism. So within these loves, we see already this element. These loves that we've experienced, these vertical loves, parent and child, child to parent, are already embedded in all religions. Therefore, they're universal. Wow, these are the values that we all cherish. Let's look at the next 2 loves, siblings love and conjugal love. They are horizontal, not vertical, but horizontal, brother and sister, husband and wife. And they're The emphasis here is on equality. All religions warn about sex outside of marriage. These warnings use the strongest language possible, implying life and death consequences. Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins that a man commits are outside of his body, but he who sins sexually sins against his own body. The Quran, do not commit adultery. Shameful and evil, and it opens the road to other evils. Hinduism, when the family declines, ancient traditions are destroyed. With them are the loss of spiritual foundations for life, and the family loses its sense of unity. In Buddhism, the man that goes to another wife, he brings up the roots of life. Sikhism, sexual relationship with another's wife is like eating poison. It goes on and on. Jainism, it's better to die than indulge in partaking the forbidden lustful pleasure. The Baha'i faith condemns illegitimate, improper sexual free love. It's harmful to man and to society. The Chinese proverb, prostitution is the head of all evil. So we teach this very simply. Learn to say, I don't. Before you say, I do. Because when you get married, if you want that love to be cherished and exclusive, then you have to say don't. There are, 8 billion people on earth? So I have to say I don't to at least half. 4 billion people, I have to say I don't. One, I say I do. So I have to learn how to say I don't. Every religion honors marriage. There are different traditions, different values. Some have beads and candles and prayers, and some walk around a fire and tie a string. Yes, different ceremonies, but they're all the same. And this foundation has expanded this. In some of the programs here in Asia, I'll share with you what they're going on around the world, in Africa, Europe, North America, South America. Here in Nepal, we had 7 current heads of state attend our program. And then we had 4,500 people, including 700 mayor couples, receive the blessing. Then we moved to Cambodia at the invitation of the Prime Minister, Hun Sen. They shared the stage together after 4,300 people received the blessing. We went to small island of Palau, 300 people. It's not a big island. The president and his wife were both there, Tommy and Debbie Remy-Gasao. Here in the Philippines, we filled Dinara Center, 13,000 people. Religious leaders from all persuasions were invited. We went to the south in Mindanao, filled up this with Oxmango Dadato, the Muslim leader in Sultan Kudarat. Then came back to Marikina, 150,000 people come to attend these. We are working to bring together families and rededicate marriage ceremonies. Mother Moon said this, we marry in order to resemble God. We marry to resemble God. Husband and wife together reflect God's original nature. It's that simple. So the horizontal loves, 3 and 4, are also, they are embedded in all religions, and therefore they are universal. So what we're talking about, you don't need to convert, because these values, these loves are already in the traditions and culture, religions, the holy texts of all these books. 2 more slides. Children benefit from married parents. Children raised in intact married families are more likely to attend college, are physically and emotionally healthier, are less likely to be physically or sexually abused, less likely to use drugs or alcohol and commit delinquent behavior, have a decreased risk of divorcing when they get married, are less likely to become pregnant or impregnate someone as a teenager, and are less likely to be raised in poverty. If you reduce the crime rate, you take the load off of the police and the courts. Increase the health, you take the load off the hospitals. Better education, everybody benefits from that. It's an easier job for the teachers. Back to our original whole of culture approach. What is the value that we all cherish? Love. It is that love that is within the family. The 4 loves in the family. And that's it. I mean, it's that simple. So this is a program that we're doing here in the Philippines. I look forward to listening to Amelia and Cheryl, what they've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Kittle, to see how the wisdom of all religions are pointing us to that importance of those vertical loves you mentioned is really wonderful. And I'll want to listen to this again. And secondly, the horizontal loves, which everyone is looking for and is driving people crazy. Everybody wants to fall in love with their beloved spouse. But the point I liked is how when you paused, when you said, learn to say I don't, and you had a big pause, and I wondered what happened. Did he fall offline? Or yeah, that is the difficult part. So I think our next speaker will really help us to think about that point, and because how difficult it is to teach our children how to say I don't. That is probably the biggest challenge of all of history. Thank you very much, Dr. Kittle. Now that we'll introduce our next speaker. So Amelia Linderman. She began her life in Seattle, Washington. She moved to South Korea when she was 12 and completed middle school and high school there. She was blessed in marriage in 2012 and has been living in Germany since. She has been a full-time mom for not one, not two, no, 12 years. She has 2 girls, 2 boys, 4 and 12. You're going to say she looks too young? No. She's a mature mom. And she completed her online degree in design shortly after her 3rd child was born. She and her husband pastored a local church community since 2019. Since last year, Amelia has started work as director of School of Love, working to empower parents to engage in the crucial role they play in their children's understanding of sex. So we look forward to hearing you. Amelia, the floor is yours.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much, Pierre. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. I'm really grateful to be here and share about School of Love. So, a path to a brighter future. I'm Amelia Lindemann, and I'm here representing School of Love. So, I was really grateful to how Robert's presentation ended. Family, right? So these days, how are children influenced by sex? Where do they learn about it, right? The most. And social media is one of the top things. I think we can't argue that social media, like even ourselves, everyone is so influenced by social media. And the messages there are very mixed, confusing, and sometimes very misleading. And also peers. At School of Love, we really want to help our kids learn about sex in our own homes, but we're also dealing with not just our own sexual education, but the sexual education of other children. Because, the playground talk and how that develops is really influencing our children as well, especially when we don't have these conversations at home. Also, pornography. I'm sure many of you have heard the age kids come in contact with pornography is getting younger and younger. And it's not a question of if anymore, it's a question of when. And also books these days. I'm sad to say books that are coming out these days can also be very misleading about sexuality. And I really loved reading as a kid. And of course, the values there were also sometimes mixed. But now it's even more confusing. So who should be influencing our kids, right? We want them to be influenced by reliable sources and loving resources, which would ideally be parents. Who loves our kids more than their own parents? So why is this a problem? Why is it a problem that our kids are being influenced by all of these things, especially in the area of sex? So the prominence of social media, as I said, it's influencing us all and can be very confusing and very dominating in our life. And also the disconnection within family in today's culture. I think these things really play together because this disconnection that is generally building up over many years in the past, it took a village to raise a child, and now we do it on our own. And we're just burdened with daily life, work, cooking, cleaning, and we don't have that village. But our kids are craving for connection. And sometimes to look for that, they reach out to social media. But this can never really satisfy this true desire for connection. And yeah, I also will probably repeat this, but the addiction is the opposite of connection. So when you don't have this connection, then addictions can be developed, especially in our children's lives. And also misguided ideas on sex, because all of these influences, they have so many different ideas. Pierre mentioned in the beginning about choosing our own gender, or what is even true love, what is beauty. All of these things can be very misguiding. And also pornography, how people even feel pleasure during sex. This can be a very misguiding resource. And we learn about sex, but sex disattached from love. It's just a feeling, it's just an emotion, it's just a temporary state, but we don't learn about sex within a healthy, loving, committed relationship. I was just trying to talk with my daughter the other day about how in school they teach about sex, but they never really talk about what it really brings between two people, and how actually that can be so much more fulfilling over time within a committed relationship, in a mature, committed relationship. Also, false ideas of joy, short-term over long-term happiness. All of these things are being promoted through social media and pornography. I really, really have never heard of long-term happiness, promoting the happiness that you really want to feel also up into your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. You also want to be feeling fulfilled and happy, and the ideas that you see in pornography and in social media will not be promoting happiness at that time of life. And sex learned from the internet, even this action of learning about sex online, is an isolated action. Whereas if we learn in the family, we're promoting connection. And yeah, we're going to get into that. So how do we give our child a brighter future? The solution is family and healthier views on sex. What happens when family becomes the main influence instead of all of the other things that we talked about? So then we can have connection. We can have deeper conversation versus limited conversation. So if we block out certain topics in our families, sexuality or things that just make us uncomfortable, then our kid, we have so much less contact with them. And they also will have to, the curiosity will not go away. This is a natural curiosity in every human being. And if we don't have these conversations about that in the home, then they will seek other sources. And we will live in a limited relationship. Whereas if we really invite this conversation, then we can have such a deeper connection. Every child has a need for connection. And when that's unfulfilled, the need is found in other ways, right? It's basically, the opposite of addiction is connection. And Kristen Jensen, the author of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, said as well, love kills porn. And I really feel like this is emphasizing when we build on this connection in the family, then our kids are less likely to seek out connection in other places. And they're less likely to seek out porn to fill these holes in their hearts. And and also to just be able to talk about these things will give our kids also action steps so that they don't get hooked into the social media and the porn that whenever that might come into contact with them. And so information, we can give our kids the right information. We talked about getting misguided ideas on sex. Well, we can give them good guidance on sex and sexuality and beauty. We can have healthy conversations with our kids. And we can counter all these false messages that are being promoted and become a go-to resource. And especially values. We can talk about sex in terms of long-term happiness, with love, intimacy, commitment, and maturity that need to be taught along with sexual fulfillment and have happy futures and thriving families. So this is from the book, How and When to Tell Your Kids About Sex. If you are silent on sex while the rest of the world is abuzz about it, your child will learn that you cannot help in this area. If you teach godly, truthful, tactful, and appropriate lessons about sexuality, your child will trust you more and see you as a parent who tells the truth. And that's from the authors Stan and Brenna Jones. And I love this quote because, yeah, a lot of us haven't really known how do we talk about sex in the home. And I myself have put it aside, waiting for my child to bring it up themselves. But I realized this is my job to initiate this conversation. And with all the confusing influence that comes earlier and earlier in our children's lives, this makes them less and less likely to come to us parents. And so, yeah, and especially when the world is so sexualized, if we ignore this, then it's natural for our kids to learn mainly from these resources that are very misguiding. So what do parents need to do? What do I need to do? We need to stay curious about our kids and build connection. We need to really be present in their lives. I recently saw a short video from a detransitioner. That means someone who decided, I don't want to change my gender. They were on a kind of therapy, medical hormones to change their gender. And there were a few people who had stopped this process, and they wished their parents had been more involved in their lives and more interested in what they were consuming in their social media. So we need to really be involved in our kids' lives and curious and just have a great connection. It takes time out of our day, but sometimes not even so much time. Sometimes just 10 minutes being with our kid, present, and giving them the love that makes them feel just absolutely loved. And be a good example, because our kids are learning from us as well. Although there are so many other influences, but we are still the main influence. We're home, we're present there every day, and they see us. And so that means we also need to do our best in our own relationship and do our best to also understand sex aside from shame as God intended it. So sex has been associated as a dirty thing, but that's not what God intended. God intended it to be a beautiful thing, a thing that promotes intimacy and connection within a very committed relationship. And so, yeah, that's what we can talk to our kids about. And also the sexual organs, that they're not dirty parts of our bodies, but actually very precious to God. That's how we start a family, and that's how we multiply our love. And so these are the things that we can embody as parents and really focus on to give them the values that are there behind sexuality, and become your child's reliable resource. So when they have the questions, welcome them. Even if you don't know the answer yet, be glad that they ask you anything to do with sex, and look into the answer together and find truths appropriate as for each age. There is always some sort of truth that you can pass on to your kids. And especially I want to emphasize the opponent is so huge, right? Social media is part of pretty much everyone's life these days. And pornography has become such a strong, has been so strongly present online. And not even just that, I mean, also old opponents that have been there forever free sex, or also just going through a crush. These things are difficult, and they're there, and we can be there for our kids if we just are there to talk about it. We need to be there to support them, because these are very, very big challenges as they grow. And if we really want them to have a healthy, brighter future, a happy family, then they're going to need our support. And yeah, the best way to do that is to do all of these things, build the connection and really be present in their lives. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, you can email me, check out our website, and please also check out our other social media platforms if you want to scan this QR code. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Well, thank you so much, Amelia. What a fantastic presentation. And I have to say, as exciting as information was with Robert Kittel, you're so soothing to listen to. Wow, it's fantastic. And I love this quote that you said, "Love kills porn," from Kristen Jensen. We know connection is the opposite of addiction, and love is the epitome of connection. So I think that people are listening to this. I heard so much information from Robert, and now so much complementary, so pertinent information, giving us so much hope for the future with this kind of a presentation. So if people want to hear the recording, they'll just have to go to UPF USA Facebook page or UPF USA YouTube channel. So I'm sure you're all savvy people listening, you know how to find those channels. And go to Amelia to schooloflove.org as well to find out more about Amelia Linderman's program. Thank you so much, Amelia.
Yeah, thank you, Pierre.
And now comes the time for our respondent when we have a great one. Cheryl Wetstein is an award-winning news journalist with 40 years of experience in New York City and then in Washington, D.C. Prior to her retirement in 2018, she spent 33 years at the Washington Times, mostly as a national reporter covering federal and state family issues such as poverty, teen pregnancy, abortion, pornography, marriage, and gay marriage. She currently advises the International Media Association for Peace and edits books and website. She and her husband Douglas live in Maryland and have 3 adult children and 2 grandchildren. Cheryl, it is now your turn to tell us what you can add to this presentation and comment on them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's really wonderful. Getting that image off my face here. It's wonderful to hear the solutions. Both these presentations are just perfect, and they have information in them that I've heard many, many times over the years. The idea that loving each other well is the way out of these problems is exactly what I heard over my career from so many people talking about the family and how do we save the family. So staying connected with each other is essential. And I would add here that staying connected to God, however you perceive this path, is also very important. I do have a few points to offer in response, which is basically like, how did we get here? The religions of the world are so clear. Do this, don't do that. But still, the mess that we are in, it seems to be indestructible. So I wrote my very first news article about pornography back in 1977. The sexual revolution was still pretty bold. Back then there were magazines, there were clubs, there were movies, there were theaters everywhere. But I want to say to you that by the early 1990s, there was a time when the pornography industry in America was on the ropes. There were still magazines around, But guess what? Now they have brown wrappers on them and you can't find them everywhere. Local communities were literally rising up and chasing all the porno theaters out of their communities. Playboy closed its last club in 1988. And then came the biggest blow to the pornography industry, which was when we were all renting videos and looking at videos. The big rental chain Blockbuster refused to rent pornographic videos. So in other words, you really, really had to go fight hard to go find pornography, believe it or not. Your kids couldn't find it. And that meant, if, like I said, if you want to find it, you have to go into the back room, some shady video rental store, and then you could find porn videos. But what we didn't know is that under the radar, pornography was quietly making a huge comeback. And that's because the technicians working on what would eventually become the internet, the first CD-ROMs and early technology, they began sharing pornography as one of the first things that they shared on any kind of technology platform. And this only multiplied with the arrival of the internet, with video, with streaming, all these sharings of images and documents. So it's not a stretch to say that the virus of pornography, the pathogen, got injected into the internet virtually at birth. And now it's a massive monster in our culture. So it's not your imagination. It really is something that confounds parents and confounds kids. So second point, okay, why not filter this stuff out? Why not block it? I covered several versions of bills in Congress that would have blocked pornographic content only to children. Okay, not adults, not consenting adults, but just the kids. And you would think we'd be able to do something like that. But pornography is a huge business. And there are well-funded lobby groups that care primarily about what they say is free speech and fighting so-called censorship. So any laws that passed didn't make it. And I want one more point is that in the media, we can't actually show you pictures of what we're trying to outlaw. You have to think about that. There was a million articles I would write and I could never show you a picture. I had to describe it, but even then it had to be in a family newspaper. So when you can't even identify and show your enemy, it's very hard to muster the courage to pass laws that would protect children from this kind of junk. So the lawmakers would dither and they'll fiddle, and we're left with private industry sometimes getting tools into the hands of parents. For example, on all your smartphones, there's parental controls or there's ways to filter out stuff. But as Amelia and Dr. Kittle know, these internet filtering tools are imperfect. So brings me to my last point. What are the solutions to protect our children, especially boys by age 11, from encountering disgusting, shocking, depraved images about human interaction with love, or with sex, I should say? So I absolutely fully endorse the wisdom of parents preparing to talk about sex with their children. Sometimes it can be discussed as a family. We're around the table. What happened? Did you see this, etc.? Sometimes it's just one-on-one. Honey, come in. Let's talk about this. I saw this, or I heard you talking about that. Let's talk about it more in depth. But it's the parents, backed up by character education in the school and in the community and in the church, that can convey the truth about dysfunctional sex and the evils of violence that are in pornographic activities, and the degradation of women in pornography. And above all, the truth that there is no love in pornography. And that's why it can be excised from your life. As Amelia quoted, love kills porn. And that is the solution. So in conclusion, it's just, this is an incredibly daunting task. I was a mother of 11-year-old boys when internet really took off in the mid 90s. And it has been, we all got sandbagged and we all had to struggle to figure out what to do. We still are, but our kids hopefully have all resolved this. So when it's a daunting task to talk about sex and love, and yet when you love your children, we just have to do this with our families, with our kids, and as a society. So great presentations. I hope this is a lot of food for thought for the folks that are able to watch this. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. So yeah, parents can convey the truth that there's no love in porn, and love kills porn. So I think parents, you got your work cut out. You gotta love your kids for sure. And that is the final thing the final and the only and the real most important thing. Dr. Kittle explained about the vertical loves, the two first loves there, parent and sorry, I forgot what's the other one. Parental love, and there's two vertical loves and two horizontal loves.
Sibling and
Children's love.
Children's love.
There you go. Children's love and parents' love. And Amelia told us about, and she modeled actually how parents can really help their children. And so I have a question here for Robert Kittle, which is, you showed us how all these great values are already embedded in all of the world's religions. What's causing society from deviating from this?
Sorry, the second part of your question, I didn't quite hear.
What's causing society to deviate from this?
I think it's prosperity, in the sense that, how do you develop economically and maintain these values? Once you develop economically, you gain even more freedom, even more independence. And that gives you the option to really misuse more freely these elements. For example, when we were in agrarian society, then, as Amelia said, the main influence was the family, very strongly so. And as we develop socially, so we become disconnected from our families. And part of that secularization is also the waning of religious practice. And that's, again, universal. So we've got to come back and find the importance of this connectedness. I like what Amelia talked about, the connectedness that we find within families, within communities, within churches, within our social groups, within our schools. And that connectedness needs to be monitored, especially parents with children as are growing up. But then that can be a healthy, nurturing factor. So I would say secularization is one of the main causes for the lack of religiosity is across the board.
And Cheryl, Amelia would like to add to anything to that.
I'm not sure that was a great answer, Robert. Yeah. I mean, society deviating from these values. Well, I mean, I think one problem maybe in the past is sexuality has been such a sort of topic associated with shame in religion. Although, we still promote healthy families and so on, but we've somehow inherited this shame. And so it hasn't been really, openly talked about enough within religions. And so other sources took over the topic and have become people's main go-to to get satisfaction. And so, I mean, I do believe Christians have taken this into account and are generally, I see in America at least, are really promoting healthy sexuality and healthy marriages with thriving sexual lives. So it's, I do believe that this can change, and But yeah, as Cheryl also said, I really love that she said this, that in the family, this is the main source of where we should really talk about this. But then when you have that backup also at schools and in your churches and community, then it's amazing support. But right now, because that doesn't quite exist, it's so important to talk about it in the family.
I like what you said, Amelia. In the Christian circles and the recovery from pornography, there's a new trend. And Jay Stringer, who wrote a book called Unwanted, is one of the leaders of that trend. And essentially, the theme is that purity culture failed, and we have to go to the roots of the reason why people go to this. Cheryl, anything else you want to say?
Just that the parents are also fighting the onslaught of so-called comprehensive sex education, which does not care about the content of your loving relationship. They just want you to use a condom or birth control and carry on. So the safety, that's what they're all about. But I interviewed an abstinence educator a long time ago, and she said, Cheryl, nobody makes any money on abstinence. Everything else you can sell.
Yeah.
So, I have just owned that little comment that she made to me, because it's true. If my kids are not sexually active, there's a ton of stuff they don't need to buy. There's a ton of services they don't need. And if they're faithful in their marriage, there's just so much, they skate right by all kinds of drama and products and services. So that is part of it, that we're fighting on a multi-front war to keep our kids to just be moral people and have integrity, sexual integrity, etc., which I'm so glad, Amelia, I know your program's excellent. And Robert, you're just right on the front line. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. There's no money in abstinence, and I've been fighting in favor of age verification to protect children from pornography. In Canada, we have a bill that's unfortunately being brushed off the table because there's going to be an election. In Canada, it was at the last step, but there's so much opposition because there's a lot of money in the porn industry, and they pay for lobbyists, and they have a lobbying arm, believe it or not. People, listen to this. The Free Speech Coalition. Okay, this is not about free speech. This is a lobbying arm of the porn industry. Yes, they have a lot of money, and they've been fighting Texas on their age verification law. The Attorney General against. There is hope. There is good things happening. So another question is Robert and Amelia both presenting these values in their respective schools. So what's limiting us to bring this into the public schools? That's a tough one. Who wants to tackle this? Who wants to try, give it a swipe? Robert, you want to go?
Amelia, you can go first on this one.
Well, I don't have a private school, honestly, where we're promoting School of Love yet. It sounds wonderful, but right now we're really just targeting parents. And I mean, I think this should never change. It should always be parents. We should really inherit this culture of talking about sex and just knowing this is our responsibility. But yeah, that would be the next step, is to bring this to schools. And what's stopping us? I mean, every country, I think it would be different. Germany is very picky about having credentials and also fitting to curriculums that are given by the government. And I think it would be tough. There would be a lot of steps to go through. I don't know if we're there yet. But I know I've heard a friend of mine, Olga Vakulinskaya, she's a moral educator in Russia, and she is speaking in schools in Russia, and it's welcomed there. And she can talk about how free sex, for example, like Robert said, is not actually free sex. You have so many obstacles that cause you pain. And she is really reaching out to teenagers and giving them someone to talk to that where they could never, talk about certain things to anybody else. So I feel like her work is amazing. And some countries are just more ready for this than others. But yeah, hopefully we can get there. But also in between, we can also have our church community to also support. I think they are more ready for that before the school systems are ready for it. At least our communities can be ready.
Nice to hear good news from Russia.
Yes.
Robert.
Yeah, one good sign here is that, again, the government of Antipolo, the municipal district where our school is located, is quite interested in what did you do, what did you teach, how did you do it, and can that model be scaled upward? It will take a big effort to do that, but having those people interested in what you're doing and looking at the cost of not doing anything is now astronomical. Somebody put a price tag on it. So when we met with the Department of Education, that was the first thing they said, can you help us? Because potentially we can save, $600 million a year. And so that initiative is there. The reason why it's not, I think there's kind of this passing the buck type of issue where, well, it's a private matter. Sex is a private matter, and, it's kind of deal with it in your family or deal with it in, your church. And we've got to kind of find people that have this awareness. You're fighting legislators, and you've got to get a majority. You've got to start it's education and working so that you can have a majority and a clear bill or a proposal that you want to write and fund. For example, in one northern city in the Philippines, up in the north, it's called La Union, the Union. We have a city councilor who's a member of this church, and he proposed to the government, I want 1 million pesos a year to promote family values. They gave it to him. So now he has money that is earmarked specifically by the government to promote family values. And this is great. So now we can have programs. We've had programs there. He can invite speakers and they can start in this area. So you need people inside who know the ropes that can support you and work with you and get these things done. It's uphill, but it's doable.
Cheryl, any kernel of wisdoms from your side?
Yeah, absolutely. Public schools generally welcome character education. It's not religious per se, but it has all the core values. You have already laid the foundation for a tremendous resistance to things that make you feel bad or make you feel, that's not right, and being able to acknowledge right and wrong. We have that within ourselves naturally. But if you have the core values that are taught in character education, then you can really then jump off that foundation into the higher discussions about sex and love that could be done, maybe not in school, but somewhere, because all the schools have family life and they have all these courses, and that's where the comprehensive sex ed comes in. But character education really is a good antidote to the lack of values that's in sexual education.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. So now we've come to our final part of this webinar. I'm going to ask you to have a closing statement. I'd like to ask Emilia first to give her closing statement, then Robert, and finally Cheryl.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm so grateful just to talk about such an important topic. And I really want to emphasize also, this, Robert was talking about the 4 loves. And as parents, we have the chance to change things compared to how it was when we grew up. we can change that for our kids. And I think one thing that's so important to change is, like I said, this view of sexuality and seeing it as a beautiful gift that we really want to live these and talk about it, be genuine, you know, talk about when we don't meet our own standards and be able to be vulnerable, but then also to really welcome. It's challenging these days. They might, you know, to keep having and other misguided things. They're still our amazing children. It's not them that has the fault. It's really this opponent that is bringing our families down. And so when we can just really love them through that, that can really keep them going towards this goal of a brighter future and a happy family. And one thing is also just so important to not only talk about the ideal and what we want, and which I love talking about with my kids, but also to be open about the harms of pornography and not pretend like it doesn't exist, but really give our kids action steps. If you come in contact to pornography, come to me, let's talk about it, you know, already from a young age. You don't have to say the word porn, but you can describe, you know, what kind of images those are, and say, if you ever have this weird feeling in your stomach, you know, come to me as your parent, and I'll be there to help you and tell you what we got to do next. But just keeping this connection with our kids so they can always be honest with us is really
Here, IMAP, America, Cheryl, Amelia, and the participants that are here. But I would like to use my time to ask a question to Amelia. And it's something that she said that I really like, where you say, you know, the desire for connection. And then you said, addiction is the opposite of connection. I would have said isolation is the opposite of connection. And I would like to know why you put that addiction is the opposite of connection. That was really in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I won't give you like a scientific answer, but I think because addiction is that peg leg, the backup to seek out that connection. And so you're trying to fill that hole, and you're trying to fill it with, however, things that are only going to satisfy you for short term, you know, whether that's pornography or smoking or alcohol. And you become addicted because it's never going to fill you up. But you're seeking for something to fill that hole, which is actually the connection. You know, you want to feel loved and you want to have give and take with another person. But when that isn't genuine connection, then unfortunately it's something that is most likely addictive and harmful, and is isolation, like you said.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Cheryl?
I actually am very hopeful for the future. That's my character. Young people around the world are getting very excited about saving the earth. They want clean oceans, no plastic. They want rich, vibrant soil to plant wonderful greens that don't have pests or, you know, disease or anything attached to them. They want clean air. They want healthy food. We're on a big kick to now change our diets. Beautiful nature. Okay, and that's because we don't want toxic things in our life. Well, guess what? Pornography is super toxic, super fun sight, baby. And meaningless sex, oh, that's so couple decades ago. Get over the sexual revolution. It was a joke then and it's wretched now. So walk away from all that stuff and look for the people that are trying to guide you to true love and happy marriage. And some of us that have a happy marriage, I'm 43 years married and I adore my husband and there's no spare key. There's nobody else in our life but each other. And we have to speak up about the fact that there is true love, there is lasting love, and it looks like this. It's beautiful. So I do think that young people are in a position to turn away from the junk of the past and adopt all kinds of new habits, new ways of looking at each other. And I think the solutions here are the tried and true ones, the ones that will turn it around.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cheryl and Amelia and Robert. So thank you all for attending our webinar today. Again, I want to reiterate, if you want to listen to this webinar again, as I certainly will, go to UPF USA Facebook page, or to the UPF USA YouTube channel. Please do subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so that you'll be noticed every time there's a new video coming out. Thank you all and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was interesting and very important topic. Thank you.
Good job.
Outstanding. Boy, that's a really important topic.
Really?
Well, Amelia is on. If somebody wants to pose a question directly to her. Otherwise, we'll finish. I know we've gone a little over.
But it was worth the time. Thanks to all the presenters.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for
Thank you.
our participants
Thank
and
you
our
very much.
panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy.
Okay.
Thank you, Amelia.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
Amelia.
Thank you, Amelia. Bye.
Thank you
Wir
so
And
much.
to
sehen uns bald
everybody.
in Deutschland. Tschüss, tschüss.
Danke, tschüss.
Yeah. You're doing it. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, you too. Thanks, you too, Hans. Thanks, everybody.
I think you can end the broadcast, EJ, if you like.
Okay.
I think EJ's on his coffee break.